I thank Allah for my mother, most of all, but also for my grandfather and grandmother. While he was in prison, he told my mother, he said, I'm going to ask my father and mother to come and stay with you all. Say, they will help you with the children. And they did. With the house and the children, they did. Big help. But something else is very important to know, too, and that is that during my father, before he was in prison, there was a period of time, like 5 or 7 years, maybe as much as 7 years, when my father was, in words of my mother and others who told us this, was actually on the move to keep angry, jealous leaders and the supporters of those angry, jealous leaders from doing harm to him. So he would disguise himself. He didn't use his name. He would use other names. He even once used in fact, Brother Benjamin, who passed, but he didn't pass without leaving his story, his version of my father's life. Yeah. He said he met Mr. Evans. He didn't meet Mr. Muhammad. He met Mr. Evans. And Evans is my mother's maiden name. Evans, Clara Evans. So my father was like in disguise, so people wouldn't know where. And I don't think it was only, I'm saying this on my own now, I don't think it was only fear from Nation of Islam leaders who couldn't get the leadership. It went to my father. He got it. He got a great majority of the people who stayed with him. But I think it was also my father knew, because they had been arrested for running the school and taking minors out of the public school. And they called it contributing to the delinquency of a minor. That was the charge made against them. Mr. Farad was arrested. My father was arrested. They were in jail. They did some time in jail, the city jail. I think my father was aware that it wouldn't be too good for the police department to know his whereabouts. I think it was both concerns he had. That the supreme captain, who was Kalat, Kalat Muhammad, and he wasn't as dangerous as some of his people who were supporting him. Because my father never said Kalat was on his trail, but he did say one of Kalat's supporters was on his trail, and he said he would see him occasionally. He'd be following him.
Was Kalat appointed a position by W.D. Farad?
Yes. Yes, the first two most important positions of the Nation of Islam, founded in the early 30s, was by the teacher who had the concept, and my father who did his work, even while he was living, was in the United States with my father and the believers who are the people that he attracted. Still, he was in the background. He put my father in the front. My father did most of the teaching and everything. My father was responsible for the secretary, the guards on post. You know, they have two guards like ushers in a church, but they call them guards on post, who saluted and everything to exchange guards. He was responsible for all of that. But my Uncle Kalat was the supreme captain, so the men got orders directly from Kalat, okay? The men, to take their post, to do whatever they had to, they got orders directly from my Uncle Kalat. But my father was over Uncle Kalat. When Mr. Farad left, then Kalat said, no. Say, you are not over the men. You are only to teach. I'm over the men. So he refused to accept that my father was also over the men. So he was trying to get an army, just like what happened in my lifetime. I've seen this in my lifetime.
I was just thinking the same thing.
Yeah, he was trying to, but you got the wrong person in mind who was behind that. I'll tell you who was behind it one day. Okay, after the interview, I'll tell you who was behind it. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. So Kalat was given the title Supreme Captain of the Nation of Islam, Lost Foundation of Islam. And my father was given the title, first title, Supreme Minister of the Lost Foundation of Islam.